This is IO Live, and I'm Timothy Jordan, and I'm standing here with Hannah Beachler, who is a production designer. You may know her from Black Panther.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
I gotta give it one of these. Great, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. We're really glad that you came here to talk about your work and to talk about diversity and inclusion and how that's affected by representation in media.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a big important part of that is if you don't see it, you can't be it. And so putting those things into our narrative work and films, which, you know, everybody finds the time to go see a good movie, as noted by Infinity War, and, you know, and to represent a huge portion of the, you know, population in that way. I think when people see it, they realize, like, I can do that. I can have those same goals in life because it's not going to be impossible. And I think that that's such a huge, important part of my work and my body of work over the last 3 years.
Yeah, one of the things I think about a lot is that I was really lucky growing up, wanting to be an engineer and seeing lots of engineers that looked like me. And that was inspiring, and I really want that for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I think inspiring the next generation of young scientists who are females, young kids of color, who see a world where they have a sense of pride, where they have a sense of, you know, reaching back and seeing their tradition and their culture and their ancestors and all those things, even being a part of their future. And I think walking away with a huge sense of themselves that they otherwise may not know or have had privy to, or so it's lifting spirits that's so important when it comes to representation. It's not only about getting into certain fields; it's about who we're raising in the world for the future, because I know I'm going to be relying on my young child to take care of me, and I want him to know some things. So, you know, it's always on my mind, and it's something that I think I'm now more than ever driven to do and include as part of my design aesthetic.
Yeah, it's almost like if you can see it, you can be it.
Absolutely. And I've been watching, you know, I watch all the videos on Twitter. People will send me stuff of teachers teaching about the sort of, you know, things. And we did, you know, I did a deep dive, but it was sort of a lighter dive into the technology in Black Panther and the science in Black Panther. And teachers are coming up with a way to teach their class using Black Panther as an example of sort of our vibranium and our, you know, sound science that we use in the movie. And to see that becoming part of like a curriculum and kids getting excited about it because they see themselves and, yeah, I can do this is, I mean, you can't ask for anything more. And so, you know, I've always thought, like, what can I do to better the world as one individual? And I didn't really know ever what that was until I think after Black Panther, and I saw the response of young kids, and it was all about the representation. And so, you know, that does become a design choice, and it's something that I think that I'm just going to do now forever.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because you're on record as saying that when you were working on Black Panther, you were just focusing on it being good.
Yeah.
Right? But then afterwards, looking back on how big a deal this is for how many people, how has your perspective changed?
I mean, it hugely, because it was just, you're kind of in it, you know, and you can't, like you were saying, see the forest through the trees. So you're just wanting to make sure it's good and it's right and that people are going to be happy and proud and that, you know, you did the right thing, you made the right choices, because at the end of the day, it was a lot of responsibility in some aspects. So you know, and then after when I saw it, I was like, I mean, my eyes were, because I did a little bit of the VFX, I was there for a little bit, but I didn't see the final edit. I saw one of the cuts. So when I was there in the theater with everybody else, I was blown away. I was like, this is insane. I can't believe I did this. and seeing the responses, it's just on another level. It's just, you know, it's really hard to put into words or articulate in a way that others can understand, because it really is made me speechless in a sense. There hasn't been the words made yet to describe what that's like, but it was certainly always about making a good movie with a great story, and hopefully everything else sort of fell in line. And then we had other great filmmakers, Ruth Carter, who is Oscar nominated, costume designer who I worked with really intensively to make sure that what we did matched up, you know, because a lot of what she did in the foreground on the characters defined who they were on screen. So that also gave back to the representation of powerful women who had their own agency about them and could make their own decisions and stand up for themselves and could think quick on their feet. That's a whole nother sense of representation and a social aspect for young kids, young girls, and the men who, you know, treated them on this equal playing field. There was no like, oh, we need to make it easy for the girls. You know, you saw the door fight. You saw the king treat them as if they were, when they were the most powerful, you know, guards in Wakanda. So it's all of those things mixed together. Then you talk about the technology on top of that. You're giving a new generation, old generations, my generation, a whole another narrative than the one that we've sort of heard for the last how many ever decades.
Let's talk a little bit more about the technology, but not go away from the human aspects that you're talking about. And I think one of the things that's always really interested me in technology is not how to make tech just sort of better on its own, and then teach people how to use it, but rather teach technology how to be better for people.
Absolutely.
And I think that you've really captured in this film an intersection with culture and people and technology. How did you approach that?
Oh, that's heavy, man. You know, very carefully, because it's really trying to understand community, what the needs of community are, and then how do we envelop the technology, just what you said. And I know for Ryan, community was really important. So and I talked to a lot of experts. It wasn't just me sort of coming up with things. I talked to a lot of people who really knew, nanotechnologists, neuroscientists, archaeologists, geologists, geographers, on a daily basis, to understand how to fold that in. And I think one of the biggest things that I did was I tried to find, a lot of the tech was based on biomimetics. So I tried to find in nature and in the different cultures what the use of something was and then the evolution of it. Because at the end of the day, it is all about the evolution of it, how we are in society and how we are advancing technologically. So it was me relating these things back in a way that represented what they are really used for and how they would have evolved over time. And I think technologically, oftentimes, it is the thing for the thing's sake and not here is, you know, something that has been such a big part of a tradition of any nationality, any ethnicity, any culture, religion, and this is how it becomes useful in a futuristic and advanced way. If that means technology, then that's the way that it would be. So that's sort of how I strung those together. And then pulling from nature. That was a huge one. And thereby keeping everything organic, in a sense. So it becomes not such a scary thing, but a very organic thing, because we're so used to seeing certain things in nature, patterns, shapes, you know, geometry, all of these things, math, science, it's all around us constantly. So it was really easy at some point to start just looking just into nature, because it is science. Mm-hmm. It is technology. You know what I mean? Like the way everything works. So looking beyond the hardware and the finish of the hardware of it and into the organic nature of it all. That's like a little dive into how it went.
It must have been a very full 14 months working on this film.
Beyond. We were on 3 continents, we were in 2 states, and I had a team at any given moment that were 500 strong, just in my department. So we went 14 months, and we went hard as we could go for 14 months to get this done, and put every last, like my whole team put every last inch of themselves. So, you know, it was a beautiful thing because we represented the diaspora, just our crew. So it was a micro version of the macro that we were building in Wakanda, and I lived that every single day for a little over a year.
All right, I want to ask you about what's next, but it doesn't have to be specific projects. But it's like, where do you go from here with everything that you've talked about, right? Like the production design itself, but like the bigger themes and ideas that you're working on.
You know, I challenging myself, I think, to try to continue to do things that are out of my comfort zone. Something I learned from Ryan Coogler, who has taken me from Fruitvale Station to a boxing movie, Creed, to a comic book movie, Black Panther. I want to continue the trend on my own and not just be in a place that I feel comfortable. My next project with Melina Matsuko, who is a director for Insecure, I'm just working on the pilot for Why the Last Man, which is a graphic novel.
Yes, I've read the entire series.
Okay.
So good.
So I'm going to be designing the pilot. We're working on that currently. I can't really say much more than that, but it's super exciting. The script is phenomenal. And our approach to it is going to be, I think, something really cool. So I'm really super excited about that. Worked with Beyonce again. That's all I can say about that. And the future is wide open. And if Denis Villeneuve is listening, I'd love to do Dune.
Yes.
I throw that out every opportunity I can get. Denis?
Yes. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story and all the work that you do.
Thank you so much. It's super exciting. I'm so happy to be here, and I think I'm going to learn something today, too. So, you know, it's all about soaking in all this greatness. So, fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Timothy Jordan, and this is IO Live.